You can access the entire episode now on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. I'm of the belief currently that much of what we understand as UFOs and extraterrestrial contact is divided into two main categories. One is that it is manufactured or created by humans. Our military-industrial complex has extreme advanced technology, and that is a lot of what we're seeing in the sky. And unfortunately, what some people are experiencing when it comes to abduction. I am of the belief that there is military black projects involved with abducting human beings, and for whatever reason, there's experiments done, and it also perpetuates the UFO agenda, the alien agenda that is occurring in the mainstream right now. That is one side of things. I've also had plenty of experiencers and people who have been abducted come on the show to talk about some of these things. And then the other side is the more metaphysical, spiritual, paranormal side that cannot be physically touched. It usually occurs in astral states or dream states, and much of it is very benevolent and has much of a different feel than the other side of the more technological human hybridization side where military is involved. The other side seems to be more of a spiritual phenomena and definitely more non-physical, but in modern times, we've mismatched both of these experiences and turned it into something that nobody understands, because I think we're combining things that shouldn't be combined together. Now, I'm not saying there aren't physical aliens out there that come visit us from other planets. That's possible. But based on my understanding and my experiences and everyone that I've spoken to so far, this is the way I see it broken down. And I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think a majority of it is military aircraft, or whatever you want to call them, objects, technology. But I think you go back to the 1800s where there was one that crashed in Texas before there was any kind of flying balloons, any flying vessels of any type, and it crashed there, and supposedly they recovered the body and buried it in an unmarked grave. So things like that you got to kind of question. It's that couldn't have been military technology at that point. And you got Ancient Aliens, which I used to really enjoy that show when I was a kid. I read Chariots of the Gods and some of those books, and now I think they it's entertainment. They're making money on it. Like how long has that been on for now? Like 15, 16 years.
Yeah, over a decade. Yeah.
And it's they always say show you something and go, is this proof of alien technology? And they always say yes. I haven't heard them say no to anything yet. So it's
Yeah.
very much sensationalism as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Unfortunately it was. I really enjoyed that program when it first started, but yeah, I could see where there's two different things. Again, it's stuff. Somebody sees one thing, and you see a military aircraft that you can't identify. Like I said, then they all get intertwined together, or drones now and everything. But that's the other thing, and that, people say, well, why do they call them UAPs now instead of the UFOs? I said, well, from my understanding is, so if you file a FOIA request and you write down UFO, you're not getting the UAP stuff since they changed the name. So just kind of that way of covering it up.
Yeah.
So remember a couple months ago when they had the Chinese weather or spy balloons going over?
Yeah.
Well, I happened to see one day that there was a headline, I forget what paper it was in, but UFOs over US. And why didn't they not call it UAP then? It's because they wanted to get everybody's attention to distract them from something else. And now it is. It has just become a huge distraction. But as far as actual, I've heard stories, not stories, but that when there's UFOs, that there's something with people are also able to communicate with their past loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So some people wonder if, is it that the spiritual aspect of it? Is that our energy that goes on? Is they're not really, UFOs, they're from here, maybe interdimensional or something? I mean, is it something that we won't find out until we've passed, or how do we know we haven't already passed? And you're just carrying on in a different dimension. Or it's very confusing.
Yeah, another thing I wonder about is the power of our own consciousness and thoughts. If, in a way, we've been creating the alien and UFO phenomena as an egregore, as an energy that we've been putting out, the more we have collective experiences, the more Hollywood shows us what UFOs and aliens are, the more literature tries to explain what aliens are. They're really based off of very few experiences. Like you said, they had a couple in the 1800s, and then we have your Betty and Barney Hill experiences, then your Whitley Strieber's, the communion comes out, and it all builds into the human consciousness. And then more and more people start to experience these things, and most of the experiences seem dreamlike or etheric or astral. Like I said earlier, the only physical things that we can really see are the nuts and bolts craft that we claim we have off-planet bodies, and we have off-planet craft that we have in our possession, in the military's possession, but yet the public has no physical proof of any of this unless you've been involved with some of these black projects. So it's very convoluted. It's very hard to tell what the truth is. But I think that this is multi-layered. I think there's something to the UFO extraterrestrial phenomena that connects to free energy, that connects to the technological side, but I don't think we're supposed to know about it right now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. When I was in the Navy, I was on a carrier, and I worked on F-18s, A-6s, and different aircraft. So this was back in the early 80s. I got out of the Navy, and one of my first jobs, I was working at an airline, small regional airline, and I was talking to one of the mechanics there one day, and he was out of the Air Force, and we were kind of just talking about different things. He says, I wish I could have told you about some of the stuff I worked on, some of the aircraft that I worked on. So right away, my mind goes to, did he work at Area 51? Because that was just about the time you were starting to hear about that. But then the next thing was, then the Gulf War starts, and that's when they bought out the stealth aircraft. The first ones, the B-2 and the F-117. So maybe that, more than likely, that's what he was talking about. That's probably what he worked on, So right away, but like I said, my mind jumps to, he was working on UFOs, and so now if he's, at that time, if you had seen an F-117 go over, it's like the black triangles, which they say are the Aurora. If they show you all the stealth aircraft now, so they got something better. That's definitely.
Well, if you think about it, those stealth aircraft were probably being developed decades before we started seeing them, and even tested. So if they were being tested decades ago, of course they would have been mistaken for alien craft and UFOs, and we have no idea how advanced our military-industrial technology is. Some say 50, some say 100, some say more than 100 years ahead of anything we could understand now. So if that is the case, and they've been developing these for 50 plus years, the technology that we have, that our military and three-letter agencies are in possession of, blows away anything that we could understand, and we could easily be fooled by what they roll out and call UFOs.
Yep.
Or UAPs.
And and the funny thing about that is, sometimes I look, the moon landings, did they actually go? I always say yes. I hope that they did, because otherwise, what did they do with all that money? But then again, they had all that money. We should have escalators going to the moon by now. I mean, it's hard to believe they went through all that and we got nothing out of it. And so I don't know what to believe on that one either. But so maybe they took all that money and funneled it into something else. The moon, they wanted to beat the Russians there, so they say, well, hey, look what we did. You can't do this.